Hey guys, welcome back to the Anchor Media channel. We are the #1 company for monetizing podcasts. I am Tatum Tamia Ayomi K. I am the CEO of Anchor Media and the executive producer. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 3 ways to gain listeners for your show. One of my favorite things to talk about as it relates to podcasting is marketing, because we do all of this work to create these amazing shows and we want to make sure that as many people as possible are listening, because when you have people, you have profits, right? So the first way to gain listeners for your show is to know who your audience is. Know who you're talking to. Now, when I say that, I don't mean just know the demographic information. So I'm talking to this person from this age to this age. I'm talking to this person who lives in this area, or they have this occupation, they have this degree. I'm not talking about just demographical things, but psychographics as well. I want you to know your listener the way that you know your best friend. So the same way, if your mom was to walk into a busy subway station and she yells your name, you know that she is talking to you. You can hear your parent, your bestie, whomever through a crowded room, because you know them that well. If somebody's birthday or a holiday or something is coming up, you don't even have to ask them what it is that they want. You can just go get it because you know them that well. That's how I want you to know your listener. Because the great thing about podcast advertising, and the reason why sponsors spend so much money in this space, is because the level of a personal relationship that most hosts have with their listeners. And so the way that you have that relationship, because it's your recording, right? You record and you upload it to the internet. You're not really having a dialogue, but you want to make it feel that way. And the way that you do that is you understand your listeners. And I want to also say with this message is, don't be afraid to niche down. Do not feel like you have to talk to everyone from 18 to 55. You can't talk to an 18-year-old the same way that you speak to a 55-year-old. Their life is not the same. The conversation is not the same. The topic, the subject matter is just simply not the same. So don't be afraid to niche down in your age group, to niche down in your interests. If you want to only talk to people who love to walk their dogs on the beach on the weekends, that's okay. Find your tribe of people and don't be afraid to be specific, because the more specific you are, the better your listener experience is going to be, because now you're speaking a specific person's language. The more opportunity that you have with sponsorships, because people who want to sponsor podcasts to sell their dog leashes, travel companies who have beaches all over the world who want to get people to come to their beach, that your show is of interest to them because you're speaking to this demographic. Nonprofits who want to raise money for animal rights, your show is of interest to them. So don't think by niching down that you are limiting your opportunities, because you're not. You're instead getting a lot more specific, which is going to actually grow your listenership. The second way to gain listeners is to be intentional with your episode. The number one form of marketing is word of mouth. It always has been, it always will be. The best way to market your show is to get people talking about it. The worst place your show can be is in the gray area, right? So you want to be hot. You don't want to be cold, because you don't want them talking about your show in a negative way, but you want to be so on point with your subject matter that people are telling their friends about it. They're sharing your show in their group chats. They're posting it on their social media. People talk about things they really, really love or they really, really hate. So you want to make sure that you fall in that love category, so that your audience is sharing your show. In a way that you do that is being intentional with your episodes. Also, being intentional with your episodes make it easier for you as the creator, because now you're going into your episode with a plan. You're going into it with notes. You're going into it with the end in mind, so you know what message you want your listeners to walk away from. And then even for you, that's a great way to make sure that your shows are intentional. Before you write down the script, before you write down the points, before you write down whatever it is you write down to be able to manage yourself and flow through the show, write down, what message do I want my listeners to walk away with? What do I want them to do as a result of listening to this episode? Write that down. Keep it top of mind as you go throughout the show, and that's going to help you be a lot more intentional. And number 3, have a place outside of the podcast where listeners can further engage with you as well as purchase. Something interesting happened recently where Apple did some type of update on the back end, and it wiped so many podcasts right off the platform, mine included. And it was so interesting to where I was like, okay, if this is a permanent thing, what am I going to do? But I had peace of mind because I have social media, I have an email list, I have these other ways that I can engage with my audience. So if God forbid I had to start from scratch, I wasn't starting from ground zero. I had other ways to communicate with my audience. So make sure that you do the same thing. Technical difficulties happen, glitches happen. So make sure that you're communicating with your audience in multiple ways. You can do that on YouTube. You can do that on social media. You can do that via email. And email is great because it allows you, when you're selling something, to be able to further groom and communicate with your consumer. So make sure that you have somewhere else, you guys. Also, people may find you on YouTube. YouTube is a search engine. So people may be looking for your type of content and they're searching it in YouTube and not necessarily the podcast app. But because they found you here, now they're going to listen to your show via the apps because the apps provide a level of convenience that YouTube doesn't offer. So you can bring in listeners to your show on other platforms. You have to just make sure that you're there. So let's recap. 3 ways to gain listeners for your show. Number 1, know who your audience is. Number 2, be intentional with your episodes. And number 3, make sure that you have other places where you are selling and engaging with your audience. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss when we put out another video. See you in the next one.